What up? I'm B and welcome to my channel where we talk about all things true crime and current events. Today we're going to take a look at some news stories from the past week, and they kind of have a common theme which I think is super interesting, so let's go ahead and get into it. Side note, before we get started, I said on my live stream I'm only going to be annoying about this for like 2 to 3 more weeks tops, but in the interim I'm going to take full advantage of my right to be annoying. I have a membership group now. It's called the Off Limits membership. It's $1.99 per month, and you can access it right here on YouTube. Within the membership, we have a live stream the second Tuesday of every month, and we'll be able to talk about a little bit of the riskier topics that I don't generally discuss with the general public. So if you want to hang out with us in there, you want to join the Off Limits crew, there is a join button down below if you are on desktop. If you're on your phone, it may or may not be there. I asked YouTube for their help with it and they said, it'll get fixed eventually. So if you don't see it on your phone, it is available on desktop. I know it's kind of annoying, but grab a laptop, grab a tablet, use anything other than mobile phone or mobile app, and you will be able to join. I hope to see you in there. Now, let's get into the news. Oregon romance novelist allegedly killed husband for $1 million insurance policy. Nancy Brophy is accused of murdering her husband, Dan Brophy. What? Oh, look at them. She looks so happy. Let's hear what happened. How do you say it? Oregon or Oregon? The Oregon romance novelist who is accused of killing her chef husband allegedly would have pocketed over $1.5 million in insurance money from his death, prosecutors allege. The allegation came to light recently in court documents filed by the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office, who presented evidence in court yesterday that Nancy Brophy should be denied bail. She has pleaded not guilty to the murder charge against her. Her attorneys have argued that Brophy, 69, who is being held without bail in the Multnomah County Detention Center, should be released and transferred to a guest house because her health is at risk because of the coronavirus, the Oregonian reports. I don't want to be callous, but I have kind of a lack of sympathy for criminals. And of course, we don't know her case, but criminals who are worried about getting coronavirus. But at the same time, from a public health standpoint, we gotta be responsible. So I can see the argument. Anyway, a hearing on the matter began yesterday. Brophy, a self-published romance novelist who sold Medicare and life insurance policies, is accused of killing her husband, Dan Brophy, an instructor at the Oregon Culinary Institute, in June of 2018. And she's just being arrested now? Dan Brophy was content in his simplistic lifestyle, but Nancy Brophy wanted something more, states the prosecutor's motion, which was obtained by People. The bottom line is Dan Brophy was worth almost $1.5 million to Nancy Brophy if he was dead, and he was worth a life of financial hardship if he stayed alive. Nancy Brophy planned and carried out what she believed was the perfect murder. Okay, when I saw this, I thought it was going to be more of like a hiring somebody to do this for her, or like orchestrating an accident. So I'm interested to hear like how this actually went down. A murder that she believed would free her from the grips of financial despair and enter a life of financial security and adventure. She looks angry in that mugshot. On June 2nd, students at the Oregon Culinary Institute found Brophy unconscious in one of the kitchens. One of the students attempted CPR, but he died at the scene. Brophy was shot twice. First in the back and then once in the chest at close range. 2 9mm shell casings were found at the scene. According to the motion, video surveillance allegedly showed a minivan that appeared to be the same as one Brophy drove in the area of the Culinary Institute between 6:39 a.m. and 7:28 a.m. Brophy arrived at the Oregon Culinary Institute at 7:20. After the shooting, Brophy told detectives that she and her husband bought a Glock at a gun show after the Parkland, Florida school shooting. She said they never used it and didn't buy ammunition for the gun. However, detectives allegedly discovered that Crampton Brophy purchased a Glock slide and barrel on eBay and put those parts in the Glock bought at the gun show. Prosecutors allege she shot her husband and then switched the eBay slide and barrel with the original slide and barrel purchased at the gun show, thus being able to present a new, fully intact firearm to police that would not be a match to the shell casings that she left at the crime scene, the motion alleges. Detectives never found the eBay slide and barrel they believed she used in the shooting. Then how do they... Oh, so they probably looked through her records and were able to see that she purchased it, but they couldn't find it. During the investigation, detectives also discovered that Brophy was the sole beneficiary to over $1.15 million in life insurance and workers' compensation policies. The couple also had about $312,000 in equity in their home. Nancy Brophy stood to collect almost $1.5 million upon Dan Brophy's death, the motion states. That's... I understand that financial hardships, that's tough. That is something that you deal with on a daily basis. It's one of those things where if you have enough money, you probably don't think about it too much. You've got a system in place. It gets direct deposited. Bills go on auto pay. You automatically just move stuff into the right accounts, stuff like that. But you don't think about it too much. When you don't have enough money, it is a constant thought. It is constantly on your mind. And so I understand how hard that is, but to say I'm gonna get rid of this person I've been married to for years, this person that I claim to love because I'm stressed about money and I'd love to be rich, is just unfathomable to me. I truly don't get it. According to the motion, associates of the couple told detectives that Crampton Brophy expressed an interest in selling their home and traveling the world, but Dan Brophy would not be easy to convince. Prosecutors said the couple had financial hardships over the years and appeared to live on a month-to-month budget. Despite a dire financial situation, Nancy Brophy ensured she paid the life insurance premiums leading up to the murder, according to the motion. In fact, she paid over $16,000 in insurance premiums in 2017, while the Brophies fell over $6,000 behind in mortgage payments that same year. Suspect wrote essay, How to Murder Your Husband. Crampton Brophy's writing also came under question. In November of 2011, long before she was accused of murder, she explained the perfect way to kill one's husband in a tongue-in-cheek essay on her website entitled How to Murder Your Husband, in a wry tone in which she assumes the persona of a woman who wants to murder her husband. Assumes the persona? If she killed him, it probably wasn't a new feeling. I'm sure she's probably had some resentment or anger or hate towards him for a while. So I don't know that she's assuming any sort of persona, but okay. Nancy wrote, Divorce is expensive, and do you really want to split your possessions? She added, or if you married for money, aren't you entitled to all of it? What? Or if you married for money, aren't you entitled to all of it? The drawback is the police aren't stupid. They are looking at you first, so you have to be organized, ruthless, and very clever. See, here's the thing that I think about quite a bit. When somebody creates artwork that is really dark or really twisted, just sick stuff that can be entertaining if you're into horror movies or gore movies or stuff like that, because shocker, I'm very into true crime. I like watching darker stuff. But the people who create that, I almost kind of wonder, are you alright? Are you good? Because there's certain stuff, like Law & Order SVU. I'm sure they don't have to, imagine a ton of different scenarios and sex crimes that the detectives can investigate on the show. It's really not that hard to say, here are crimes that have been happening and are widely publicized, so let's incorporate them into our show. But really, really dark stuff, it just makes you wonder. And so when you hear that she literally wrote a joking essay on how to murder your husband, I'm just like, I don't know how satirical that is, but we'll see where this goes. I truly want to know if she like drove somebody there to shoot him or if she shot him herself, because you gotta be like so stone cold and cold blooded to not only plan this and set this up to kill your husband, but then to be the one to go up and shoot him at point blank range with a gun. Here's the thing, I mean, she probably went out and practiced with the gun, but you don't just buy a gun and know how to use it. Like, she had to have practiced with it, right? She couldn't have just used it for the first time that day, but I don't know how much experience she would have with it. She probably wouldn't be super comfortable with a gun. And the fact that she did something so horrifying with it is just, it's a lot. It's a lot to process. So we'll see what happens with this. I'd be interested to see what her novels are like, because it seems like that was really a passion for her. She was self-published, and you can definitely make money doing that, but considering that they were in a really tough financial spot, I don't know that she was, but I definitely think there might be some telling storylines or plot points in those books that would be interesting to take a look at. So it'll be interesting to see what all comes out with this, if she is found guilty or if there's a twist in the story, but we'll just have to see where it goes from here, and let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Lawyer for Carole Baskin's missing husband believes he was strangled, thrown from plane. Florida millionaire and animal sanctuary owner Don Lewis mysteriously vanished more than 20 years ago. Whenever I say Carole Baskin out loud, I want to say it. There's a woman, I want to call her a girl, but she's an adult. There's a woman I follow, her name is Angie Lee, and every time she has a Carole Baskin mug, she goes, Carole Baskin, and she says it like that every time, and so that's how I read it, and that's how I want to say it out loud, but I will not. So it looks like there's some new information potentially, or some new theories coming out about what happened to Don. The attorney for Don Lewis, the 60-year-old millionaire and animal sanctuary owner who mysteriously vanished more than 20 years ago, believes his client might have been fatally strangled and tossed out of a plane over the Gulf of Mexico. I do have reason to believe he is dead, attorney Joseph Fritz tells People. Too many indications of foul play, too many motives, too many opportunities. He wouldn't leave his family, his fortune, and his kids behind. There was enough motive and enough opportunity for something bad to have happened, and it probably did. Look, I have my own theories about Carole's guilt, but to say he wouldn't have left his family and his kids behind is just a lie. Like, it's, I don't buy it. Like, he very well could have just up and left and dipped. Like, it's totally possible. He met Carole when he was married, and she was significantly younger than him, and the kids didn't really like her, and she kind of always got her way, and you can hear that a lot if you listen to the Wondery podcast about Joe Exotic. It really paints more of a story about her and how there's no love between her and those kids. There just isn't. And to say that, like, oh, he would have never left his family and his kids behind, well, he kind of put them on the back burner for a long time because of Carole. And so I'm sure he loved his kids, absolutely. I'm not saying he didn't, but to say that he would never leave them behind just doesn't ring true to me. After Lewis's August 18, 1997 disappearance, deputies found his van abandoned at a nearby airport where he had allegedly planned to take a trip to Costa Rica. Police found no signs of a struggle or blood inside, nor did they find proof that Lewis ever left the country. In the intervening decades, his disappearance has remained a mystery. But since the release of Netflix's 7-episode series Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness, about the long-running rivalry between Joe Maldonado Passage, aka Joe Exotic, the now imprisoned big cat enthusiast, and Carole Baskin, Lewis's wife when he went missing, police are looking at the case again. Ugh, poor Tiger. Like, in that tiny cage. I know she runs a sanctuary, she rescues big cats from these private zoos, and, you know, if they just let them into the wild, they wouldn't survive, but, like, what kind of life is that anyway for a wild animal? Fritz, who first spoke to the Fox Nation host Nancy Grace, claims he heard from 2 sources that Lewis may have been lured to a nearby airport. We heard he got strangled with an... We heard from who? We heard he got strangled with an electric cord in the back seat and was thrown out over the Gulf, Fritz alleges. In my working theory, 1 person was flying the plane and 1 person was strangling. Who is this? Who is this? Who is the second person? Is he saying that Carole was one of these people? He was a pretty likable guy, Fritz says. He never really hurt anybody. When he loaned money, it was at high interest rates. He aggravated somebody on a land purchase once. That was bad. But nothing I would say that was worthy of murder. All right. I don't know who the murderer is, Fritz says. I don't know who they are not. But he believes the killer will be caught one day. Watch over your shoulder all the time, he says. Revenge is best served cold. Somebody is coming for them. Fritz says he is speaking out because of his friendship with Lewis. Don was a friend of mine. I want to keep the ball up in the air for as long as humanly possible to get as much info as possible, he says. That's my motive. Earlier this month, Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Cronister told people he also believed that Lewis was murdered. I believe it was a homicide, Cronister said. How and who's responsible for it, that's the unknown part right now. I wish I had more answers. I only hope, with the popularity of this Netflix series, that I'll get those answers. Lewis's family has long suspected that Baskin, who runs the nonprofit Big Cat Rescue in Tampa, Florida, had something to do with his disappearance. In Tiger King, Maldonado Passage accused her of disposing the man's body by feeding it to her big cat. Who can forget that beautiful song, Here Kitty Kitty? Baskin has long since denied those accusations, and on her organization's website, she slammed Tiger King as salacious and sensational, saying it has a segment devoted to suggesting, with lies and innuendos from people who are not credible, that I had a role in the disappearance of my husband, Don, in 1997. Cronister told people that Baskin is, quote, not a suspect at this time, adding, we don't have any evidence to even call her a person of interest. I said this on my first video where we talked about some Tiger King stuff and Joe Exotic stuff. Carole cannot be surprised. Carole has always been a suspect. Carole agreed to be in a documentary, and she knew full well that this is something they would look at. They asked her about it. They asked her about the murder of her husband. Of course they're going to include it, and they're going to put the spin on it that is most interesting. Whether or not she actually killed her husband, that's not for me to say, but even in the Wondery podcast that came out before any of this even happened, they heavily implied that she was responsible. And so for her to just all of a sudden have this outrage, you had to have seen it coming. You really did, Carole. Like she's watching. Carole, you know you saw it coming. But still, I mean, it's shocking to think that somebody could do something like this to somebody that they're romantically interested in, but they didn't have the greatest relationship. He kind of pressured her into getting to his car the first time they met. She she left a fight with her current husband and was out walking on the street, and he was like, here, get in the car, I just want to talk to somebody. And then he eventually had to tell her, get in the car, I've got a gun, you can hold the gun on me the whole time. I just want to talk to someone. So I have no doubts that this dude wasn't the greatest person in the world. He sounds very manipulative and literally left his wife and kids for someone in their 20s when he was much older. So, you know, he's not a saint by any stretch of the imagination, but he probably didn't deserve to be murdered. And, you know, people got to look into it. The police have to investigate this stuff, especially when it gets as much attention as this. And that's what I have to say about that. In any case, those are our stories for today. I know there was only 2, but I thought it was kind of, not fun, but yeah, kind of fun, that there was a theme. It was both about femme fatales, if you want to call it that, or women who are being accused in the disappearances or murders of their husbands. And so I thought it was interesting to see 2 different stories around the same topic. Please let me know what you thought of each of the stories and where you think each one is going to go. I know we don't know a lot about the first one as of yet, but feel free especially to leave your opinions on Carole Baskin and that whole story. I would love to see what you have to say. While you're doing that, if you would consider liking this video or subscribing to my channel, that would be incredible. And if you have subscribed already, thank you so much. I am so appreciative of you, and I love being able to just sit here, hang out, and talk about whatever. With all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Thank you so much for watching. Please be kind to people, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.